What's up, you guys? It's Lo Beauty Demon, and I'm back to talk about internet BS because Keemstar posted the Mom's Basement podcast that had Gabbie Hanna on it. You know, I could not resist talking about this. I've actually not talked about Gabbie Hanna in a while, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of missed it a little bit. So if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time I post, because I don't have a regular upload schedule, and everything I say in here is just my thoughts, my opinions, based on what I'm seeing play out on the internet. So if you have any comments about anything that we're talking about, just shoot it down below. That's what the comments here are there for. And before we jump into it, we actually have a sponsor for today's video, Atlas VPN. Atlas VPN is a tool that encrypts your data so that is sent out so that the time that you spend online is more secure. Right now, they are having a special on their 3-year package. It's only $139 a month, and they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. This sale is for a limited time only, and there is a link in my description box down below. Atlas VPN is a virtual private network that gives you a new IP and DNS address, allowing you to be more safe and secure online, including things like masking your location so troublesome cookies aren't following you around everywhere you go. VPNs can also protect you when using social media. If you're doing those internet deep dives and you accidentally click the wrong link, it prevents sensitive information from potentially being leaked, things like your name, email, passwords, and other information that you really don't want people to know. Atlas VPN also has a tool called their Data Breach Monitor, and all you do is you put your email address in and it searches the entire internet to see if your email has been in any recorded data leaks. And if you turn on notifications, it will actually alert you anytime there is a recorded data breach, so you can go and change your passwords quickly. I have it on my computer, my phone, and my iPad. And don't forget, they have their limited time special on their 3-year plan for only $1.39 a month. And with that money back guarantee, that's a steal. So thank you, Atlas VPN, for sponsoring this video. Okay, now let's get into this ridiculous podcast, because this is a lot to listen to Keem talk excessively, but here we go. Now, first of all, this podcast was an hour, and the one that he had last week, well, he and FaZe anyway, they had last week with Trisha was only 34 minutes. So I was kind of like, that's a little rude. Honestly, I just took notes, of course. I took a bunch of notes. I took like 8 pages of notes. It's kind of ridiculous. So first thing I wanted to say was I really dislike the music. I'm not sure if I said that in the last video, but this music feels like people who don't have taste in music. So Keem introduces Gabby as controversial and talented. Immediately, FaZe Banks goes right into the tea community, but he like doesn't know anything about this crap, I feel like. None of them do. Keem immediately starts off with this idea that tea channels are just bullying Gabbie Hanna. That's all we do. We just live to bully Gabbie Hanna. No, I just live to call her out. Then apparently they go into, I mean, they're trying to gas Gabby up, you know, trying to soften her up so she'll like talk about stuff, spill tea, if you will. And Keem says that FaZe Banks apparently has an eye for art, and he has shown FaZe Gabby's art, and he said that was really good. And I'm not saying that Gabby art is bad, but I'm just saying I'm not sure if I believe that FaZe Bangs has this like really critical eye for art. Gabby says, you know, she's not about the drama anymore. She wants to just be all about her art and her music. And that is what I've just been telling her in every video, is just go do that. Just go be about your art and your music. So Gabby says that she's all about her art and her music now, instead of trying to like escape the scandals and the drama. And she like doesn't like how it all plays out on the internet. And Keem's like, well, I love the internet. Of course, we know you do, Keem. We can't keep you off of it. Awkwardly enough, Keem mentions his now ex-girlfriend in this podcast. They've already broken up at this point. So I feel like he'll probably mention her or reference her one more time, at least in the Tana Mojo podcast that's supposed to be coming out soon, because I think all 3 of these were filmed in one day. And actually they did confirm that the Gabby and Trisha one was filmed in one day. So yeah, I think the Tana Mojo one was probably filmed in the same day too. We're 3 minutes and 36 seconds in, and Keem has already brought up Ethan. He brings up his tweet about Ethan being sad that Trisha was on there. Why do you think Gabby wants to talk about Trisha? They hate each other. Gabby says she is annoyed about always being in drama, and she never wants to be part of the drama. Stop right there. Look at what you do. You're the one putting out this entire career killer of a series that is nothing but drama. You want the drama because it's the only thing that makes you relevant in videos like this, so you're welcome. The funny thing is that I think Gabby thought that the series was gonna be some like magnum opus and people were gonna be like, oh my god, yes, this all makes sense. It's all coming together. I get it. But instead, the entire series, just in and of itself, is drama, not even to mention the actual contents inside the video. Pretty quickly, Gabby brings up the victim that she has been criticized for exploiting, and that she then in turn criticized T-channels for exploiting them as well. And Gabby just decides to drop that person's name. So say there's somebody listening to this podcast and they don't know who Gabbie Hanna is. They don't know who this person that they just dropped their name. So they're like, oh, it must be somebody that Gabby had some kind of Twitter beef with. And they go online and they look up Gabbie Hanna and this poor victim's name, and they actually see what the actual instance was. She just nonchalantly drops that person's name and then just moves on like it's not a big deal. To her, it's another scandal. That's it, and that's all. She doesn't feel sorry. She doesn't have remorse because she doesn't understand, I don't think. It's just another drama that she had to get over and move on from. It's not a good look because people would just go and find those videos that she made, because those are still up too. I just wish she was a little more sensitive to some of the things that she's just flippantly throwing out there. FaZe tries to relate to this by bringing up the only drama that's ever made him relevant, and that is his drama with Jake Paul, which is 4 or 5 years old now at this point. So it feels like it's kind of like a stuck in the past thing. Through a lot of this podcast, I kind of felt sad for FaZe Banks. He just seems like a sad person. Gabby says Trisha is obsessed with her and T-channels are. They're just losers, and she's talked to all of them though, and she doesn't care what they think. She's more concerned about bigger creators attacking her. FaZe goes back to talking about Jake Paul again, because once again, that's all he can ever talk about. I am only 6 minutes and 18 seconds into this. Gabby says she wants peace. Keemstar says he wants war. This dude needs to grow up. Gabby and FaZe talk about how nice Keem is in real life, and Keem's stop, I'm trying to be the villain. I don't want people to know that I'm a nice person. So Keem admits that he is playing a character. He plays one on the internet, but of course he got all up on Def Noodle's jock because Def Noodles played a character for a while. Keem's doing the exact same fucking thing. 9 minutes and 36 seconds, Keem breaks up Ethan again. He says that he's pretending to be a nice guy. Gabby says that Ethan platformed mental abuse, and I was just wow, that is a bold statement to make. If I said something like that on my channel, I would have to say, in my opinion, or allegedly, but she just threw that out there. Just saying. Gabby said she asked Ethan to come on and defend herself on the platform he slandered her on, and then FaZe, of course, was able to take that and turn that back into his drama with Jake Paul, because I'm not even gonna go into that because it's so freaking old. A side note, can you imagine Gabbie Hanna on an H3 podcast in any way? It would just, I feel like it would be her just raising her voice the entire time, and Ethan just yeah, wow. Especially if he had had Gabby right after Trisha left. It would have been way harder for Ethan to dip out on that drama with Trisha if they had had Gabby on immediately. And Trisha would have gone into DEFCON 1. Los Angeles would have been obliterated. It would have been completely wiped off the map. So yeah, FaZe continues to talk about the whole Jake Paul thing and how Ethan slandered him and the Jake Paul thing, and then he didn't get to go defend himself and whatever. Here's the thing though. Ethan is not obligated to have you guys come on his show or to continue to talk about anything. Ethan only talked about Gabby because Trisha was involved, and he's not obligated to correct anything about FaZe and Jake Paul either. It's his channel. He can run his channel how he wants. Well, he's trying to run his channel how he wants, but Keem continues to strike him. And FaZe goes on for literally 5 minutes, which is I thought Gabby was the guest here, but so far in the first 15 minutes of this podcast, it's mostly been Keem and FaZe talking. Then at 14 minutes and I think 56 seconds, Gabby drops the name of yet another person who has passed on and had a lot of controversy around their death, somebody who she was not involved with in any way, shape, or form, and she just drops it like it's just no big deal. She has no sympathy whatsoever. Maybe the world would be a little more sympathetic to Gabby if she was a little more sympathetic to it. She needs to have respect for people that have passed. It's disgusting. And FaZe was talking about something totally different. He was talking about like the content nuke, but he couldn't remember the name of it. And Gabby just tried to like feed that in. Now, Keem, he tried to shut this down because he was involved in drama around it. I'm not gonna go into it. But before he shuts that part of the conversation down, he does use that opportunity to have a few jabs at Ethan, of course, and they go on for another like 5 minutes about that. Gabby says that Ethan attacked her mental health. He gave her an award for biggest breakdown. You were being absolutely ridiculous on the internet, okay? Like, and Ethan Klein is kind of an asshole. It's no surprise. And then Gabby said they did multiple segments about her on Frenemies. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, I didn't watch every episode of Frenemies, but from what I understood, the only segments that were done about Gabbie Hanna was the award that they gave her in an episode of Frenemies, and then when they talked about her in the last episode of Frenemies, the last aired episode of Frenemies when she walked off. Now, I could be wrong, but I thought they avoided talking about Gabby because Trisha was just too triggered by them. And then Gabby calls Ethan a hypocrite, like she isn't one, like Keem isn't one, like everybody in the room isn't one. And then Keem's talking about Ethan again. And then he attacks Chi channels like he's not a T channel. Keem, because on top of having Drama Alert, which, spoiler, Trauma Alert is a T channel, and this podcast is a T podcast. Because let me read you the description for this podcast that is on Spotify. Mom's Basement is by Spotify Studios. Every week, the internet's most authentic voices, FaZe Bangs, Killer Keemstar, and Colossal's Crazy, spill the tea on the hottest topics and talk to the biggest names from every corner of the internet. If you're into creator and gaming culture, you need to listen to the Spotify exclusive now. A podcast that's all about spilling the tea? Sounds kind of like a tea podcast to me, Keem. Also, Colossal's Crazy is not on this podcast anymore, and dear God, I wish he was. It would make this way more bearable to listen to, and Colossal would hold all of these people to their shit. He would call them out, and that's what made this more entertaining. Without him, it's just Keem and FaZe like just gassing people up and FaZe saying fuck all the time. Anyway, back to the actual podcast. Keem says he doesn't want this to be about Ethan, but he continues to talk about Ethan more. And we are 20 minutes into this podcast at this point, and I feel like Gabby has probably said like 10, maybe 20 sentences. Gabby started talking about kind of the drama with like Trisha and how people call her a stalker, and she says, well, if people went and took the time to look at my channel, they would be like, oh, she's just a painter. Yes, a painter of a narrative. Got it. Have you looked at your channel recently? Side note, I did also notice that she had deleted that first video at Jessie's Smiles, the one where she was like sitting on her couch. But Gabby just wants to be left alone. Then get off the internet. That is the easiest way to do that. She says that Ethan and Trisha pushed her to a mental breakdown. Now, Gabby played the antagonist in a lot of situations, so it's not like she has no fault in any of the situations that she's had with Trisha. And then of course, just by coming onto this podcast and talking about this stuff, she's antagonizing it even more. So Gabby and Keem agree, like if people approach them in different ways about situations like, hey, you're misinformed about this is what this is, blah, 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 they would be more receptive and open, except for that's not the case because one of Gabby's actual fans privately messaged her and said, hey, just so you know, I don't know if you're aware, Trisha prefers they, them pronouns. What was Gabby's response? She blocked that person who was an actual fan of hers, who was just trying to be respectful of somebody else's pronouns. Gabby just blocked them. And this person, I've seen the message, was nothing but kind and compassionate when coming to Gabby. So that's a big bullshit lie right there. Keem does admit to not knowing anything about mental illness, then maybe you shouldn't be commenting on it in any way, shape, or form. And FaZe actually opens up about some past struggles that he had that I had no idea, that he had been 5150'd in the past and had a lot of things that went on, but as he explained what happened in his life, it made me really sad for him. Like, he doesn't like to live alone. He's got to live with friends. It made it seem like he didn't want to be alone in his own thoughts, and he likes to have people around him to distract him, which made me kind of sad. It makes me wonder what he's not willing to like confront or accept. But that's not my place to be asking that question. Anyway, so Keem says his now ex-girlfriend has been making him super happy. That's awkward. He also says that he played his music for his girlfriend and her friends and they went crazy for it. Keem, I want you to put her on the mic right now. I want to know for real. Was she just saying that? Were they just like, oh yeah, it's great? Also, like, he was hanging out with a bunch of 20-year-old girls. It's just like weird. And then Gabby is going on, I'm an artist. I'm an artist. Have you done any shows, Gabby? Have you had any exhibits? Have you sold a piece of art? Are you making your life work off of paintings? Like, it's just annoying. She says this in the podcast and I will say this here. I feel like artists don't have to tell people they're artists. You're just an artist. I don't tell people that I'm an artist. I just am. I don't go around and talk about my paintings ad nauseum because I don't feel like I need to do that. But I mean, really the reason she says I'm an artist because she wants that attention for being an artist. So whatever, give Gabby her attention. She also says that she says I'm an artist in a way of saying like, I don't care. I don't care about YouTube. I don't want to be famous. I'm not trying to be a YouTuber. Then delete your YouTube. Then stop posting YouTube videos. Then stop having live streams. Then stop. It's so easy to just stop. She doesn't care about YouTube drama. Of course you don't care about YouTube drama. You just like to fuel drama and then you like to watch from afar. Face does try to get pretty deep and he asks her if it's fucking everybody in every situation you find yourself in this cycle, same shit. At some point, don't you have to look in the mirror and ask, what am I doing to create this shit? She immediately just starts talking about Monster, her song, and how it became a meme, and then Rice Gum, who I think is like at the house that they're at. And then so Faze kind of like tries to ask her this again. He asks her like, do you think that because you see negativity everywhere that you're like inviting it in? Faze is trying. He's trying to say to her like, hello, girl, the call is coming from inside the house. The negativity and all the crazy drama and stuff that you're trying to avoid, it's inside you. They talk about how they focus on negativity. Gabby talks about from in her childhood how she learned how to confront negativity instead of like taking constructive criticism and trying to learn to grow from it, because she just sees it all as hate. Everything is hate to her. She doesn't listen to anything constructive at all. None of it's constructive to her. But she does say therapy is helping. I hope so. She admits to being very reactive and thinks that's why people pick on her. Gabby thinks it's really crazy that people see her as like a social media influencer. You've been on the internet since Vine. You've been doing this shit for 10 years. And then she acts surprised when she gets certain reactions to things. She knows what she's doing. So Gabby says she's perceived as a joke, but she could turn that around. And I think she could. Yeah, it would take time and it would take a lot of work, but she could totally change the public's perception of her. It could be done. She does admit to taking a lot of the criticism personally, which is what I have said that she does. Then she jumps into Escape the Night. And this is just riddled with bullshit because Keem, first of all, tries to tell this story. And oh my God. Keem says Gabby fully admitted to being a bitch and apologized in her video. And then everybody came out and dogpiled her and made their videos saying she's a bitch after she apologized and was a bitch. No, Keem, that's not what happened. Gabby got on her video and she said they did not attempt to meet her dietary requirements, thus triggering her ED, that they did not make her a warm, more better fitting costume like she had asked, and that they gave her some sort of shitty costume jewelry causing her body to break out in a rash. So she made false claims against Joey Graceffa and Daniel Prada and YouTube specifically, because Escape the Night is a YouTube original show. Joey and Daniel did as producers of this YouTube original show was protect their show and their brand and the company that they were employed with against the lies that Gabbie Hanna was trying to spread. All they did was set the record straight. Gabbie Hanna did not fill out her food requirement sheet until the first day of shooting, when it is traditionally filled out at least 2 weeks before. When they asked her through text message, which was apparently the only way to get in touch with her, she said healthy shit. So they did not have specifications, and they put lots of different kinds of healthy snacks around her. So then Gabby would throw a fit that her food wasn't there, and Danielle Prada would actually go to Whole Foods to get her food. They proved this in their video. When it came to the costumes, she either didn't show up to fittings or was ridiculously late. So yeah, her costume didn't fit well, and it wasn't as warm as it could have been because she didn't make the attempt to show up and ensure that the costume was what she wanted. That's her fault. And to say that it was shitty costume jewelry, either Joey or Daniel, one of them said that was sterling silver, so I don't know where you got that rash from. And then of course, there's the whole fiasco of the final photo shoot, which they had to reschedule, and she wanted to show up late too because she had a gym appointment, and they didn't even use her. They had a stand-in in the last shoot because she was just a mess to be around. The reason Joey and Daniel made these videos was in direct response to her Escape the Nightmare video, where she said a bunch of BS and they needed to set the record straight and protect their brand and YouTube. Keem, of all people, should understand that. And on top of it, Gabby didn't take any responsibility for any of that. All that she did was the next day after the Escape the Night video, she started releasing her Trisha Paytas videos, and she didn't have to address the Escape the Night stuff, and she still hasn't until this, and she's wildly inaccurate. She's just letting somebody else speak for her who doesn't know what they're talking about. Keem, you get on T channels for not doing their research. Maybe you should have done your research in this situation. And Gabby says they're holding her to a standard. Like, how is she supposed to remember things that happened several years ago? You're the one that made a video going through text messages trying to paint a narrative of how you were wronged on the set of Escape the Night. All Joey and Daniel did was actually bring out video evidence that you were a bold-faced liar. And when they proved that you were a liar, you just ran away and hid and then just attacked Trisha Paytas. Gabby says like these guys were her friends and nobody listened to her. She apologized to them, but then they just went and made videos about her. Girl, they made those videos after you made your video. Get your timeline straight. And then Gabby says she doesn't want to be famous. People who don't want to be famous don't have social media teams and managers and all this team of people behind them doing stuff to help them with their public image. Normal people, non-famous people, don't have that kind of stuff. Her dream is to just leave the internet and make music and like write music for people and make art, and she wants to do it under like a pseudonym, and I'm like, don't even do that. Do it under your own name. If you left the internet, if you just stopped posting on social media publicly whatsoever and just focused on being an artist and writing music, that could completely rehabilitate her career. Look at George W. Bush, one of the most hated people in the world. Still is, but George W. Bush has swayed public opinion a little bit because he's actually become an artist and a painter and has had exhibits and things sold. So I feel like if art can actually help George W. Bush kind of soften his public image just a little bit, like that could happen for Gabbie Hanna too. So I don't think she needs to do it under a fake name. I think it would benefit her to do it under her own name, just to stop with all the internet stuff. And then it gets awkward again because Keem is talking about how happy he is now and how happy he is with his girlfriend, who is not his girlfriend anymore. She like probably broke up with him at the end of the week. Actually, if you watch that Aiden Ross stream, you can see the exact moment where she was like, I'm dumping this guy. Keem says he likes to have enemies, and he compares it to like playing basketball. You are competing against the other players in the game. Except the shit with Ethan is not like a game of competitive basketball. When you have enemies and you're going to war, like you said, you're legitimately trying to ruin that person's life. When LeBron James goes and plays a game of basketball, he's not trying to ruin his competitor's life. He's just trying to win the game. And yeah, he is using that competition to elevate himself and make him better. But what you're doing, Keem, is not trying to elevate yourself and make you a better person or a better YouTuber. It's just trying to get rid of your competition that you see as competition anyway. I don't see you guys even in the same league. And this is just not healthy competition because this is going real life. There's a huge difference between the two. What's interesting is Gabby tries to call out Keem for trying to get her to take a selfie with Trisha Paytas. I told you in that video I talked about where Trisha was on the podcast that they would try and pull a stunt like that, and they totally did. And then we just go right back into talking about Ethan again. Gabby does bring up back in like April when she was kind of going off about her, you know, popping off online, and Keemstar says, oh, about that Rachel Oates bitch. So he just calls Rachel Oates a bitch in this podcast. Cute. FaZe decides to chime in and he says everybody on YouTube is lying. Thumbnails are lying. It's all clickbait. It's just to pay well. And then Gabby sprinkles in a little psychology knowledge and tells him all about Pavlov's law and classical conditioning. And yeah, I mean, she's right. That is really what it is in terms of like all the clicks and views and the clickbait. But you can tell that it like really wowed FaZe that she knew what Pavlov's law is. And Gabby says she is getting pretty numb to like the hate and negativity she sees online, but she's always apologizing. Always? And sometimes she just forgets things and she lies by accident. Oh, Gabby. As if you had any credibility left, you just ruined it right there, right in that moment. I don't have the timestamp for that one, but of course Keem brings up Nicholas DiOrio in the whole apologize to Gabbie Hanna and how those commentary channels are so different from T channels and they had a totally different take on it because they're smart. No, that's not what it is. It's that Gabbie Hanna was in Nicholas DiOrio's live stream and was gassing them up, and she's somebody who has 5 million subscribers and he has what, 50K? So of course him and all of his buddies are gonna side with Gabby because they already dislike some of the T channels. Now they have an excuse, and Gabby and Keem are friends. They're following Keem basically around like little lost puppies all the time, so they're going to side with her. They like to take the hot takes, and they're really good at dogpiling, and they just pandered to Gabby. Like Gabby was pandering to them. That's all that was. Nicholas DiOrio's had private conversations with Gabbie Hanna. He's even said it on his podcast. To me, it seems like there's a complete conflict of interest in there. Your crew didn't look at things objectively. They looked at it through Gabbie Hanna's perception. Keem, you just gotta stop trying to create this division. It's complete bullshit. You're a T channel. You are just as guilty of everything that you accuse T channels of. There's no difference. And in this podcast, he is continuing to try to push that narrative that there's some difference and he's just trying to divide and conquer. Gabby says she is forced to explain everything, which she's really not. Gabby does not have to explain anything she doesn't want to. She doesn't need to come onto her channel and make some ridiculous expose series explaining herself about drama that happened 6 years ago. But really, just this podcast was just a chance for mostly for Keem to just shit talk Ethan more and Gabby to just kind of throw a little bit of BS here and there, but she really didn't get to talk that much. It was mostly Keem talking about Ethan or FaZe talking about Jake Paul, and then a couple little sprinkles of Gabbie Hanna in here. And Keem tells her, you know, she should focus on her music, and just focus on your music. Don't focus on anything else. Please don't post anything on YouTube. Go and live your life. You would be so much healthier if you weren't doing all of this shit on YouTube. And that was the podcast. It ended with a clip of Gabbie Hanna's music that I did not listen to because I could not put myself through that after listening to this podcast for an hour. Was it worth it? There wasn't a lot of like pertinent information that was like super new or anything like that. It's just more of the same from these two. These two have no self-awareness whatsoever. And when I say these two, I mean Keem and Gabby. FaZe seems to have some sort of self-awareness going on, but I feel like he's kind of numb to the world. I hope FaZe Banks is doing okay. Can somebody check in on him? So that was Mom's Basement Podcast with Gabbie Hanna on it. If you liked this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time I post. I will see you guys next time. Laters. Bye.